Hello, I'm Captain Andrea.
And I'm Commander Matthew.
And welcome to Trek Back Tuesday.
This is the show that explores time and space to seek out new and old Star Trek merchandise from across the galaxy.
Today, we have a treat for you.
That's right, today we have the first installment from Hero Collector's epic Build the USS Enterprise NCC 1701D set. So, Captain, I don't know if you heard the episode I did of the Trek Untold podcast when I interviewed Ben Robinson, and I actually asked a question about whether or not they were going to do something like this, because Hero Collector has done very large-scale models of things like the Ecto-1. They've done, I think, the Aston Martin from the James Bond films, and I asked him whether or not they were doing this, and off-camera he was like to me, well, when's this going to air? And as it turned out, I basically asked him a question that he knew the answer to, because this was in fact going to happen, and basically I think the week we did the episode is when they announced that they were doing this awesome set here. So yeah, this is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was good timing.
Yeah, this is the first installment of a long-term series of videos we're going to be doing here, breaking down these, and well, not really breaking down, but putting together the whole thing here.
Building.
Yeah.
It's called building.
I know, you're a big fan of building stuff.
I love building stuff.
So you must be pretty excited to get your hands on these.
Absolutely. That's why I'm holding it right now.
Fair. That's fair. And this is also your first time looking at this, right? So, I mean, I don't know if you had a chance to really take a peek at it.
I took a brief glimpse at it earlier. It looks both intimidating and also not. It looks good. I love how organized this whole thing is.
Yeah, I mean, I took a peek at some of the instructions. I have an idea of how it's like, and it doesn't look too terrible for someone like me who's very not good at building things.
It's fun to build stuff. You're creating with your hands. They're providing all the tools for you.
Yeah, they definitely are. And so, by the way, folks, I have set number 1.
I have set number 2.
And we also have a pile of papers here, which includes the instructions, some information about the ship. But really, there's not much else we can do here. So I think we're going to switch to the overhead angle to give you guys a much closer glimpse of the pieces, everything we got, and how this is all going to come together.
Well, number 1, beam us to a new camera angle.
Aye, aye, Captain.
And we're back.
And you guys can see in front of us now, we have the pieces for this Build the Enterprise set here. There's 2 separate packages, so I believe on this side I have set number 1, and on this side we have set number 2. And that's because these are, again, the first 2 installments in this very, very long, in-depth process to build this ship.
This ship, it's a die-cast replica. It's going to be 27.5 inches of the, as they put it, the Galaxy class USS Enterprise NCC 1701D. This design is based off of the study of the different studio models that were used in filming. One of the coolest things about it is the saucer and the star drive will be able to separate, and it has working lights, which in part is going to be right over here. It's going to have all the other details. You'll see that as we go along, but I will say that I do love the fact that we are eventually going to have the captain's yacht.
That's a part of it too?
Yep.
Oh,
Captain's yacht is a part of it. And I got all this information from this handy dandy guide. So how about we move the pieces out of the way so we can get a better look.
So this is the first of a few different things it comes with here besides the model parts, and let's just go ahead and open that up and you can see what's in it. So yeah, we got a nice big picture of what it is. These are basically the same photos that you've already seen online if you've looked at any of the stuff previously. This just has a little bit more of that key points, of really the selling points, but you've already bought this thing at this point, so I don't think you need them anymore. Yeah. So as we go along and build the ship, we're going to basically talk about all these different elements anyway, so I'm not going to focus too much on this part here. And again, this just kind of tells you a bit more about what we're going to expect with these booklets.
But it also gives you a little bit of the history, about how they're making it. I mean, I like the fact that they have a piece right here that says, good enough for filming.
Yeah, because they actually got quotes. I think it's actually in the other book I'm going to show you in a second from Dan Curry talking about. Actually, no, that is his quote there. There it is. Yeah. That's Dan Curry who designed the ship, talking about it. And he was a big part of actually getting this thing together. Again, more focus on the working lights. There's the head honcho of Hero Collector, Ben Robinson. This is basically just the sale book, if you will. If you went to a Comic-Con, you probably would have gotten this for free. So that's that booklet. Really, what we're here to look at a little bit more is going to be this big boy right here. But we also have a few other things, too.
Before we get to the big boy, got this even bigger boy.
What is that?
This, I'm just opening it this far because it is life-size model photography. It is a ginormous poster of what the ship will look like.
It's very, very large, so we're not going to really open it up right now here completely. So you can kind of see it's already getting a little unruly. But hey, here's a picture of Andrea holding it, and you can see how big it is. She's basically gone missing in the size of this poster. Mm-hmm. So in addition to the instructions, the pamphlet, the poster, we also get Star Trek pins, except we don't get Star Trek pins, because unfortunately, they're on back order, because I guess so many people jumped into this. So at some point, we'll take a look at those pins, but here's what we're going to eventually get. It's going to be an Enterprise and Starfleet pin. I will say it was actually packaged very well. Everything that you see was packaged in some nice little box with bubble wrap and paper and stuff, so everything was super protected. So here's the instruction book, and we're going to basically look at it as we go along, but just to give an idea of what's in this booklet, it's not just the instructions, it's also going to have some chapters on the Enterprise. So each book is going to have like things telling you from different episodes and that kind of stuff, information contextual to the ship, and all sorts of little factoids about it if you didn't know already. So yeah, here's a quick glimpse of what the instructions are going to look like.
Here you can see a breakdown of all the parts, and it looks a little intimidating. I'm not going to lie. It looks a little intimidating when you see all these different, O1A to V.
Oh, good old V.
Good old V, But looking through it, it actually doesn't look that difficult. It just looks like you need to be a little nimble.
Yeah, I mean, keeping in mind how big this instruction book is, it's only actually, as you're going to see, 6 pages of instructions.
Yeah, it's actually really great.
Everything's labeled really clear, too.
I know. These are the kind of instructions that we sometimes are dying for.
Yeah, and in fact, I want to mention, too, the parts that they're telling you to manipulate are in yellow. Mm-hmm. That makes it, so clear. Because we looked at things like Lego or Playmobil, where everything's kind of, colored the way they are, or whatever. Or they're kind of, meant to be one color, they look something else when they're printed. Everything here, you can tell what's what.
Exactly. I also like how they use the red to differentiate when you have to do, a few different things. It actually says right here, red highlights where the new parts fit in the screws, yellow indicates the new parts, blue-gray indicates the previous assembly in which the new parts fit. How perfect is that? I'm pretty sure that's better than IKEA.
Definitely.
IKEA could use some, take some notes. Okay, so this is the last piece of instruction. There's nothing else other than what we just showed you. I just flipped through it. But now we get to the really cool part.
Yeah, we have a look at some production art in this case. This is all about the design of the ship. There's some original designs over here. We got some more on this page here. I believe they got some brand new interviews also for this book to really flesh it out. There's some really great early stage illustrations of what the ship is going to look like.
This one I find interesting. Just look at that. It looks almost like a whale.
Yeah. It was such a weird ship back then, too. I mean, you hear all the complaints people say today about Discovery ships. I mean, imagine you were a fan of the original series and this was your next starship. I mean, I can understand why Star Trek fans always hate whatever the new Trek is.
Yeah, I mean, it almost looks like origami at this stage,
Yeah, so lots of production drawings here, a lot of good information that you're going to have to get the book if you want to learn more about it. A little more details about the production. Oh, there's some actual stuff about the bridge, too. It's cool stuff. I love a good production drawing.
Mm-hmm, Sam.
Look at these. Look at that nice alcohol marker illustration there.
Oh, I love this. Showing how comfortable they'll be in the, in the seats.
The cool thing about seeing these old illustrations is what changes were made or what things did the designers have in mind that didn't ever actually get mentioned or used on show.
I know. I love finding out that stuff that, and also you can sometimes see where they took a design from something else and maybe used it in a different show or on a different ship.
I mean, check this out over here. There's actually a staircase on the bridge.
Well, I mean, there's just the ramp on the bridge. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but I could see it.
So it's kind of skipping around, glancing at some of these drawings. So a bunch more illustrations, a lot of story stuff here. It's important stuff. If you want to learn it, though, you got to buy this yourself. And hey, here is some contextual stuff here talking about the Enterprises in between the D. Some nice photos here, some nice screen grabs. Hey, look, there's Mark Lamo from the first Romulan appearance in TNG.
Hey, look, Cisco is meeting Captain Kirk.
Huh.
And Picard's meeting Scotty.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And that's pretty much the book. So I think at this point, it's just time for us to dive in and let's build.
Okay, so we're going to start with part 1, which is on your side.
So all right, let's get to building here. And you guys can see, by the way, I didn't know this was going to happen. I was actually really curious if I was going to need my own tools or what was going to be done here to make this happen. It includes a screwdriver. That's really great. So that takes a load off my mind right away. It includes all the little mini screws. No parts require any glue. Anything that doesn't screw together is going to be snapped together. I think the only thing that is not included here is pliers, and these are not really necessary. I think for this first phase, the only thing we're going to be snipping is these sprues. Otherwise, everything else you see here, it's basically ready to go.
Love it when it's simple, yet complicated.
So let's get to work. So while we're building in that shot, we're going to be chatting over here in this window.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, folks, we didn't give a disclaimer previously, but we're not exactly pro model builders.
No,
not
really
at all.
No,
not at all.
As you will clearly see as you keep watching.
And we also haven't exactly figured out how we're going to be recording these yet. If we're going to do things like what you're seeing right now, which is time-lapse or talking over it, or if we're going to be like other channels who actually are talking you through the entire process. But again, we're not model builders, so I feel like we shouldn't be telling you how to put this thing together.
Yeah, no, we're not qualified for that, I don't think.
Yeah, so I feel like this is more like if you're a beginner or you just want to see everything, this is probably better for you.
I agree with that, yes.
But we're definitely going to learn as we go. And we definitely learned a lot, I think, in this first
yes,
video. Yeah, in these first 2 stages. So So overall, the construction of this Enterprise wasn't terribly difficult, but we did have a few hitches along the way.
Yeah, I think starting with the very first most important thing, we did sort of talk about it. The instructions are pretty simple. They're pretty easy to read. They kind of put Lego to shame for the most part because Lego will show you lots of different pieces, but sometimes it's hard to determine, to figure out, oh, is this supposed to be the light gray piece or the dark gray piece, So that can be a little unclear with Lego building, but here, and yes, I know there are two different types of, kits to build, but here it was really clear for the most part. The piece that you were supposed to go into next was, yellow. If you were connecting something, like if you were screwing something in, those would be in red.
And everything's labeled pretty much very easily, so you can tell what parts are what in theory.
Exactly. Yeah, in theory.
Yeah.
That's a good point. In theory.
Overall, the instructions were fairly easy to follow with a few hitches along the way that we'll discuss as we go. But as far as the pieces go themselves, they are pretty much really nice, high-quality die-cast pieces.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, like these feel very sturdy. They've got a really nice paint job on them, as you guys are going to see it throughout this process here.
Also, I do love how the parts are so clearly labeled. That is a wonderful thing. And I mean, in the packaging, not just in the booklet, in the packaging, when you have something that, tells you, oh, look for the part that has the sticker A, look for the part for the screws that are CM or AP or whatever. That is incredibly helpful. And it's in a packet, not in a little tray, so it's a lot easier to keep it all together.
So where it starts getting a little screwy is, well, that's actually probably a good choice of words right there. Because there are 30 different sets of screws for basically each one of these sections here.
Yeah.
They all do different things. They all almost look identical. They basically look practically identical if you're not really paying attention. So keep them, make sure they're separate as you're going along here.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest difference is going to be width and length, but the difference isn't that much.
But the big issue is it's kind of like building IKEA furniture, where quite often you'll get like a screw that doesn't really fit in this hole, but it'll fit a lot better in that hole instead.
Yep.
There was a lot of that. We had a lot of issues just like, getting screws along in there fitting. In fact, we ended up briefly using like the wrong screw for a while because it fit in better. We were like, let's just test it out, and it worked. But we did eventually replace it, put the correct screw in there. So try not to do that. Make sure you're using the correct screws. Yeah. Just, you might have to dry fit a little bit as you go along.
And working on that, you also got to put some pressure into it. I was worried about putting too much pressure on the, with the screws. I didn't want to, risk stripping the. I didn't want to risk damaging it. Is really what it came down to, and that was becoming a problem because it was clearly moving. But you ended up doing several of them because like I wasn't putting enough force into it. But at the same time, I don't think I've ever had to put that much force into screwing something. Poor choice of words.
Yes.
Yes, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, so it takes a little bit of extra elbow grease. Don't be afraid, basically.
Yeah.
If you hear something cracking, that means you're probably doing it right.
Yeah, but do monitor.
Yes.
If you're hearing cracking sounds, of course.
So otherwise, for the most part, everything was pretty fine, very self-explanatory. Instructions are pretty clear. But the biggest issue we had, and you're going to see it right here, was when we got to the emergency flush vents. And so we had a lot of issues with that because, again, that came down to the screws. Nothing was fitting in correctly. The instructions were a little not as clear. And we actually ended up watching another YouTuber as well. I think his name was World of Wayne, to see what he was doing. And he was having some similar issues, different issues, but similar issues with basically getting the little electronic piece to fit and stay firmly in the place it's supposed to go. And as we found out through watching his, about 10 minutes after the point where we were watching, he's like, oh, I made a mistake also. So at least we know it's not just us.
Yeah. It's one of those things you just have to pay a lot of attention. Some of it really is fitting pieces in like a puzzle. That's probably the best way to put it. It is like a puzzle. You can feel when the right piece is in the right area. But at the same time, it's also like the electronics. You got to be a little careful with them.
Yeah, those were actually the things that were takeover, where they kept kind of slipping out even after they were screwed in. It got to the point where we had to like screw it so hard that we actually, again, did hear that cracking sound. And it got me worried, but apparently that's like the only way you really know something's in there, because otherwise, we have the stuff finished here in front of us. And, basically this little nook right over there, that kept sliding out until we screwed it down so hard that it really had nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Which is what you should do, ideally. It's just getting it down there was a little scary.
Yeah, it was a little intimidating. But we got it.
Yeah.
It's now secure and it looks cool.
Otherwise, it's looking pretty good here. For the most part, that part was fine. I think the other hurdle we had with this, what would be...
the escape pods.
Yeah, the escape pods are kind of funny because we just didn't check the instructions well enough. That was my fault for snipping ahead too much.
Yeah, so, great pro tip. Granted, if you read the catalog, if you read the instructions, you'll see it. But, the escape pods are labeled left and right. They are designed in a very particular way, so if you're putting a right one in on the left side, you're not getting that in smoothly. Not at all. You will know if you screwed that up. But make your life easier. Just, check the back.
And the other thing that we kind of had a problem with, you can see it here, is the upper sensor platform that this piece is here, and it's jutting out a little bit. Yeah. So we tried screwing it in different ways, didn't seem to make a difference.
I don't think it was related to how it was screwed in, though. I think it just came out a little bit off, because when we first put it in place, it wasn't fitting in, it wasn't fitting in smoothly. Like, you could tell this is where it's supposed to be, but at the same time, it wasn't level.
Yeah. Like, I tried unscrewing it and seeing if it would come out any differently, and it still didn't make a difference. Yeah. So part of me feels like I might try it again later off camera, just there times the charm, but otherwise it's going to permanently just kind of be weird, and I don't like that at all.
Yeah, I mean, not my favorite, but at least we were able to screw it in, and that part makes me happy.
So then we moved on to the first part of the nacelle, and that was very easy. It's just a lot of screwing, and I mean a lot of screwing. We screwed a lot, huh?
We screwed so much.
Sure did. Just nothing really there but screwing. This part was actually super easy. I did that part, and it took me like no time at all.
I know, it was pretty great.
Until we got to another problem, and that's, so you can see here, and that's why this is actually currently not finished, but I wanted to get this video out, and I didn't want to wait forever. So it would appear we got 2 of the same warp engine field grills. So basically, like, there's no way to actually attach this piece in here at all. It just does not work. So we emailed customer service. They're sending us a spare to fix this problem. And if I get it in time for this video, I will cut it in. Otherwise, it might be not seen until part 2 of this series. That part was kind of a letdown. Yeah. But otherwise, the nacelle is like super easy. And there's a few leftover pieces, which you're not going to use until, I guess, a future stage.
Which I like. It helps keep you enticed for the next time.
Yeah, but otherwise, I mean, this looks pretty good too. It's half a nacelle.
Oh, yeah.
Half of one nacelle, so it's going to take 3 more of these to actually finish.
The nacelles are huge.
Which gives you an idea of how big this ship's going to really be. I mean, keep in mind the scale of this thing. This is the nacelle, and this is us. This is going to be big.
Yeah.
Yeah. So overall, I think in the hand of more competent model builders,
yes,
this would probably take about 15, 20 minutes. For us, it took a little bit longer, but not that much longer than that. Yeah. Just mostly because we got really stuck in that one part where we were just staring at it for like 15 minutes on those flush events.
Yeah. It was just trying to figure out how to do it exactly. It was a little rough.
Yeah, but once we, again, watched that other guy who had the channel who knew what he was doing, it clicked, and it was pretty much in there within a few minutes. Still was a little bit of a fight because of those screws giving us so much trouble, and because there's a lot of stripped screws as well, we feel like, in there. So the screws are probably, obviously they're one of the most important parts of building this, but they're also a little inconsistent in their quality.
I'm going to be honest, I don't know if it's the screws themselves or if maybe there was a little bit of paint in there.
That could be that too, yeah.
Because I was seeing a lot of stuff flaking off.
Yeah, there's a lot of flaking.
Yeah, so I'm not 100% sure if it's just that there was excess paint that was causing some of the problems. So I don't want to, please don't take this as we're talking, poorly about the product, because we're not. It's just be careful. I think that's the best way to put it, is just be really careful about it.
But at this point, I think it's fair to say that we've now got a better understanding of the model and how this is going to work and what things we have to watch out for. So I think by stage 3 and 4, which is coming up next, we'll be a little more well-practiced. We'll have an idea of what's going on here. So it should go a lot smoother, and I think a lot of those issues we're complaining about right now, we know what to expect. So it shouldn't be a problem next time around, just maybe more of a minor hurdle.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot easier the next time. So one other thing regarding the wiring, it's minor. But at the same time, it did trip us up a little bit at first. And again, part of this is us just not being used to doing this kind of building. But for the wiring, for the electronics, it's mostly clear cut. It really is. But this one piece that gave us a lot of trouble, this would be, I think, piece B. For those of you who are going through the process, it's piece B. So you see this piece right here, it fell out again.
Yeah, the one we just said that was actually in place. It's continued to fall out.
It keeps falling out. We're not sure whether that's an us issue or a product issue, so take it with a grain of salt, but just be conscious of it. But also in the instructions, they show the black and yellow part, and they show where that goes. Okay, cool. But they don't show this red and blue part, and they don't show it even being left over. They show nothing about it. So it's just kind of hanging out, and to be honest, that was a little confusing at first. Again, we're noobs, so, we're looking for the guidance here, because later on, you have the other electronics of the green and yellow and the black and red. That's clearly described. That shows you exactly how to do that. So I'm not sure why this red and blue part was left out. We clearly got it to work, but then it fell out again.
Like, basically, the instructions just need to say, this wire is doing nothing this time.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
Because it does say later on about, like, the nacelle again, that, like, you're going to be missing a part because it's coming up later. Again, there'll be these pieces over here. They're coming up in a later part.
Exactly.
So it would have been just nice to include that for that wire as well, to be
Yeah.
super clear about it.
Yeah, because, even for skilled model makers, they might not necessarily be skilled at dealing with electronics.
That too. And to be fair, the guy who we were watching, World of Wayne, I believe is his name, he had similar issues because, this part is clear, this part is not.
Yeah.
And we weren't sure what was going on because, again, we figured both parts would light up logically. It just seemed like it made sense that way.
Yeah.
But they don't. They don't both light up. So that's kind of that bit of confusion there, sorted out now.
Yeah, like I said, we now know we now understand what we're doing. It would have been better if it was spelt out a little bit more clearly for us beginners.
Yeah, because we are the novice builders, but I think by the end of the series, we're going to be pros.
I look forward to this. Like, really, I've always wanted to build something like this. This is letting my nerdy dreams, fly.
So yeah, but as for me, the thrill is still there for building this thing. I'm really excited for this. I'm excited to get better at building because I'm terrible at model building in general. That's why I kind of don't do as much Warhammer stuff because it's just, I don't like building them. I like painting them. I don't like building them.
And see, I like building, but people don't let me have tools. And also, I grew up being treated, to societal norms, whatever you want to call that. I didn't have a lot of experience, doing things like this, and I always wanted to.
Well, you get to be the engineer next episode.
I'm excited. As you can see, my sleeves are already rolled up. I cannot wait to, get in and get dirty.
So we're going to be back next time with stages 3 and 4. So make sure you're ready by getting yourself a nice big O'Brien breakfast and a Rock de Gino, and we're going to build some more Enterprise.
Sweet. And with that, I'm Captain Andrea.
I'm Commander Matthew.
This has been Trek Back Tuesday.
And until next time, live long and buy toys.